Welcome to today's episode of Skeptics. Welcome. I'm your host, Mariah Oler. I'm a tarot reader, astrostylist, and former cell biologist. Every week, I meet up with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and curious creatives for action-oriented tarot readings focused on whatever feels uncertain, uncomfortable, and stagnant in their lives. Let's get into it. Today, we are joined by our guest, Dee Carroll. Dee has spent 25 years in magazine publishing. She has been the editor-in-chief for a trade magazine for the last decade, but lately the job and the industry as a whole has lost some of its former glory, and she's been dreaming of becoming an innkeeper. Her big question is if she should blow up her comfortable but uninspiring job to become the steward of a 200-year-old Victorian bed and breakfast that has captured her heart. Welcome to the podcast, Dee.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I want to start by giving you a very speedy birth chart reading. This is what I do with my Mystic Momentum clients. It's my business coaching. I really focus on 3 main points in your birth chart. My hope is that it inspires some questions. It kind of gives us a place to jump in. You are a Scorpio rising. Yes.
You say so.
Wait, is this your first ever reading?
I had it read years ago, but I never internalized anything other than I'm a Cancer because I'm born in July.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you maybe a little bit more in-depth reading than I was originally planning on. You are a Scorpio rising, like me. It's the sign that is the most personal to you. So when you are looking up horoscopes, you should probably read for Scorpio, not for Cancer.
Scorpio is such an interesting sign, though. It's such the antithesis of Cancer. Like the main traits that they talk about, like, Cancers are nurturing and homebodies and Scorpios are real.
I think that is because it's a patriarchal lens, because Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. And so people think Cancer is going to be just so nurturing and so soft and so catering. But like in tarot, the card that represents Cancer is the Chariot, the warrior going into battle.
I'm going to be honest. I've never, yes, I enjoy home things. I enjoy having a beautiful home and welcoming people in my home and like cooking, but I don't have children. That was a conscious choice. I did not want to be a mother. A lot of the things that they say are Cancer traits, I never really resonated with me. So it helps now to know that there's some Scorpio there.
You also have the planet Uranus there. Uranus is the disruptor. It's the only planet that spins in the opposite direction of everything else. It's very unconventional. Many small business owners have Uranus in the first house like you do. So you already have like an entrepreneurial mark. You want to do things differently and you want people to perceive you as differently.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is Scorpio rising is known for transformation. I'm a Scorpio rising. I started college at 13. I was a cell biologist. I was the lead biologist of a medical device company at 19 years old. I left that at 21 and started a modeling agency, and now I'm a tarot reader. So if anybody could go from 25 years in publishing and totally reinvent themselves, it is you.
I'm sure we're going to get into all sorts of things, but one of my main sort of concerns is, do I just have, the personality for it? I like stability. I mean, from a Cancer perspective, I like knowing when my next paycheck's coming and then I have health insurance. And so I'm just like, do I have the patience? I don't know if that's the right word. Do I have, the strength inside me to wake up every day and not know what my day looks like, which is entrepreneurship, right? Like I know what my days look like now. I've known for the last 10 years what every day is going to look like. So
yeah, I'm glad you bring this up. Your second house, which is the house that rules how you make money, what you value, what resources are available to you. Your second house is in Sagittarius, which is the adventurer. He provides a lot of direction for people. He's like, this is the way that we're heading. You have Neptune here. It's very dreamy and intuitive and idealistic. Some things that we know with your second house, you value freedom and expansion. And there is like the spiritual piece that kind of comes up here as well that is valued. For you, money is more a tool to complete your big vision or to have freedom.
Money for me is freedom, but also security. There is some childhood money trauma, but security provides freedom. So they are very much go hand in hand. Like,
we will get to that part too, because there's a lot there as well. One of the things that can come up for you that I'm a little worried about, just because it's a thing that entrepreneurs have to deal with, is you can feel guilty charging.
yes. Well, there's the whole like friends and family discount. I'm like, but I would never charge my friends and family. Like the discount's free, but you can't run a business giving it away for free. So how do I reconcile that? Yeah.
What I do, and I don't have Neptune, I mean, I charge over $1,000 an hour to read tarot for people. I give a lot of discounts. I love a discount. There's a discount code for Skeptics Welcome, so people can get half off. I love a discount. The thing that I do is I pretend I have different personalities. My father-in-law worked in finance, and I have kind of like a caricature of him that's a very small, bald man, just like typing away. He's who determines my pricing, not me.
I have several different personas and they have names.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yes, I have 3 distinct personalities besides myself.
And what do each of those personalities represent?
Bertha is my glutton. Barbara is my Karen when I get like persnickety and whiny and complainy. My party girl's Bridget. They all have B's. I don't know why.
What are you going to name the Airbnb?
It's already got a name because it's an established business that I would just be acquiring. So it's called the Rose Hill, which, come on, is a great name.
It is a good name. The crux of Neptune being in the second house is like you want to live the adventure, and it's very idealistic. Can you functionally do it? Have you read numbers already?
I've done some numbers. I have a small business consultant who's like, sat down and like sort of told me what I need to charge and what I need to make and what my loan terms would look like and how much I'd need to clear. It's terrifying. That is probably my biggest insecurity. Like, have I ever been a business owner? No. Have I ever run an inn? No. But like, I can learn that stuff. It's the finances that is really the whole, I have to make what just to break even every month? How is that even possible? Like, that's the stuff that's causing me
Yeah, to me, this feels like this is where you bring in a partner. That way you can say, he set the rates. We have to support it. Okay, so next placement that I look at for your career is your 6th house. This is your daily ritual. It's your like labors, whether they're paid or unpaid. It's like the actual work that goes into your day. Yours is in Aries, which is very like fast moving, competitive, tries to do it all themselves. And importantly, you have your South Node here. So it's very comfortable to be here, but we are meant to move beyond this, meant to move beyond this idea of going very fast, hustling very hard, doing it all by ourselves.
Okay. I've gotten better as I've aged, asking for help. It's still not comfortable.
Right?
Yeah.
If we were to try to do everything by ourselves, it would be like a bottleneck for our soul's purpose. Wherever there is a South Node, there's also a North Node, the thing that we are meant to be moving towards. Yours is in Libra, which is your 12th house. 12th house is where it's like your sadness, your like hidden life, the things that you struggle with. How do you relate to partnership and to like getting help? Tell me about that.
I mean, I'm sure if you had asked, when I started my career, there was a lot of like, stop asking questions, just do it. Like, when you're low man on totem pole, you're not supposed to understand why you're being asked to do something. You're just supposed to do it. But I always wanted the why. So now I'm essentially the boss, right? So like, I have created the world to function the way I want it to function without anybody else's input professionally. Personally, I have been chronically single my entire life until recently. In the last 3 years, I have found my partner. I look at him and I'm just like, holy crap, hit the lottery. But wouldn't have even given him the time of day 10 years ago on paper.
So it's like something that you've been moving towards.
Yes, it's something that I'm actively working on, which is sort of why I got to this place in my career. Like, I was the editor-in-chief of a national magazine, by 32. I like my job. I just can't see doing it for 20 more years without any change, which is sort of what I'm looking at right now.
Well, okay, 9th house of publishing and philosophy is in Cancer, which is where your sun sign is. So the thing that empowers you, the thing that people know you for, the thing that fuels you is publishing.
Yeah. My entire career has been in publishing. Yes.
Writing has to continue being part of this journey.
I would love to get back to writing. I just can't stomach the idea of doing it in my free time when I do it.
Oh, yeah.
For my job.
100%. Your 10th house is your career and public persona. It has your midheaven, which is where the sun was at its highest point in the sky when you were born. Your midheaven is in Leo, which means in order to be the most magnetic version of yourself, the most successful in your career, you should be embracing traits of Leo. Leo's very bold. They're always the center of attention. Leo's ruled by the sun, so they are literally the center of our solar system. We kind of have to act like the main character even when it feels kind of uncomfortable because we're Scorpio rising and we want to be kind of hidden. Being a central figure is so important for our work, especially when we're running businesses. Mm-hmm. We have to be a beacon for those clients that we're going to see. And as we saw from your sun sign being in the 9th house of publishing, you are going to have to share your philosophies on life, the things that you feel like you have to share your knowledge with the world. So those are kind of your important things. Now we have tarot to give us specifics on any questions you have.
I want to know if I get the Rose Hill. They have now sort of dragged their feet. I've looked at other inns that have come up on the market in the interim to see if like, okay, do I just want to be an innkeeper or do I want to be the Rose Hills innkeeper? I don't just want an inn. It was very much specifically this place. I haven't liked the vibes in any other place. I need to know if like, is it going to be the Rose Hill or do I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what the next 20 years look like?
I don't think it's going to be the Rose Hill.
Ouch. All right.
So when I look at what you need to know about the Rose Hill, and here I was kind of thinking more along the lines of like, are you going to get it or are you not? We see the 9 of Swords. 9 of Swords represents anxiety, but when we're doing kind of yes or no, are you going to get it? Are you not going to get it questions? Swords are no, because I was like, well, does this card represent anxiety? I asked what you need to do. And the very first card is the 6 of Swords, which is moving, not because you want to. It's like out of your control. As much as this sucks, you have an innate gift at transformation. And so the plan has to transform.
Okay.
This was meant to inspire you on what was possible. I see you needing to expand the vision. So when you think about the inn, what are your favorite points about it?
It's got an amazing side garden. It's a bigger lot downtown in this, historic downtown area of Wilmington. The house itself has still just got all of the charm. I've gone into some of the other bed and breakfasts and, because they've turned them into businesses, they've chopped them up and sort of stripped out some of the charm to make it more palatable.
Do you want to be an innkeeper? Because I do see that you would be a great entrepreneur. I don't see any marks that makes me feel like, and it must be in nurturing people.
So, the way I procrastinate are all of the things that I would be able to do in the inn. I need to have the next thing on the horizon to work towards, or I sort of like am aimless. Magazine publishing specifically has been very good for me because there's always a deadline, right? You finish an issue and then the next issue's deadlines creep up. There's always sort of this project that I'm working towards. It was just, it inspired and engaged the part of my brain that my job no longer does because I've been doing it for so long, I can almost do it in my sleep.
Right there. We want transformation.
Transformation with security, right? Like I live in a town that has got a huge tourism business. And a very active and vibrant historic downtown. So in my head, I was like, well, what's the safest way I could go about, a 6-bedroom Victorian bed and breakfast 3 blocks from the water that I turn into an event space as well feels like a sure thing in this market. But also then $1.5 million in bank funding in this economy sounds like a really bad idea.
My goal for this session is that we can get a clearer idea of what direction you're heading before we get off this call.
Me too. That is really what I'm struggling with. Like, I have pinned a lot of hopes and dreams on the Rose Hill because no other option has presented itself that speaks to me inside. I could do any number of things, but they don't excite me.
The concept doesn't excite you. Perhaps if we start getting more fine-tuned, then that would be exciting. Tell me about the different options you are considering.
Staying in my current role, which admittedly I have mostly checked out of because in my head I'm like, this isn't going to be forever. So if I were to do that, I'd have to do the mental work to fully re-engage. Option 2 is find another job using last 25 years of skills and storytelling and publishing and editing that I have accumulated. into a similar but role outside of magazine publishing, finding something that allows me to work 100% remotely. And that job would also have to pay me a comparable six-figure salary to the one I'm currently making, which 100% remote as the boss making six figures feels like a big ask. And then the third option is to be determined. I'd love to just become a stay-at-home wife and like make great meals and make a pretty home.
Yeah, there's no way you're doing that. When I look at you doing that, it's like poverty, the tower. I do see that six figures is imperative. It's a guiding light for you. If it's not six figures, it's not right. It's the 9 of cups, which is like, this is your ideal situation. It's the people you're meant to be around. It's the work you're meant to be doing. When I look at your switching to another like kind of publishing role, it's not a healthy industry. So we do see like you having money but not feeling very secure because you know the company's going under, eventually being let go, and then having to start at square one, no six figures.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's just like an absolutely not. If you stay at your current company, we see the King of Pentacles, the card of the entrepreneur, which is so interesting. This is the last card of tarot completely. It's like a life well lived, a master of your career, a master of your skills, being able to delegate to other people. And we see that if you were to try to do something to like reignite the spark, it almost burns you out. There's a high likelihood of burning you out.
So I just do what I'm doing indefinitely?
You do what you're doing for now.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if an opportunity comes up and then you take it, but it requires you to be fully buying into your current company.
Okay. All right. Maybe I do want my bosses to hear this then.
She's staying.
She's staying. She's going to get better at her job.
She's an incredible employee. Keep her forever.
The only issue with staying at my job, which is, listen, it's super comfortable. I get paid very well for the part-time job that I have made it. I'm just not going to get paid better. No, there's no amount of like hard work or reignited passion or new projects I can take on that are fundamentally going to move my compensation needle, 3% increases every couple of years, which is standard for magazine publishing. And for the next 20 years just feels like working harder for less and less, given the trajectory life in general keeps me going in, and this country specifically.
I see a lot of things coming up with this. One, I see you do reignite your passion, and it's through maybe a hobby.
I am moving in with my partner, whose house I now get to tinker with.
Yeah, so this is the other thing. When we're talking about the Page of Wands, you get to like pick things up and put them down whenever you're done with it. You're like, oh, learned what I needed to learn. Got it. Okay, setting it down. Bye. Next thing. Passion does get reignited. It doesn't have to be through your career. Your career can be your foundation, can be your stability, can be your money. Then whatever feels exciting, you get to pick up and put down as often as you want. It wouldn't surprise me if you get swept up by somebody else, by something else. I do see an emphasis on, this is the card of Cancer that we were talking about, the Chariot, the warrior, herding cats. I do see an element of the importance of creating sanctuary.
Okay. What does that look like? Sanctuary outside of whatever it is that is engaging me?
You know what I really think it is? I think it's you putting in a beautiful garden. It could also be, fixing up the house and things like that. But I think the thing that you love about Rose Hill Inn and that you're going to love about this next phase is tending to a garden, having garden parties, sharing images, sharing stories, talking about what you learn in your garden, talking about the phases of life, talking about letting things go and, death being a natural cycle because you're a Scorpio rising.
Interesting.
It does look like there will be options that present themselves, and those options, like people fighting for you. We see this card a lot for online dating, and we see that it's like money wins, foundation wins, stability wins. Notice the flower on her head, the garden keeping you grounded.
Okay.
I do see there kind of always being an element of your career where you're like looking towards the next thing.
I mean, that's been my life. It's been, what's next, what's new. Without that, I sort of am adrift most of the time. So even when I don't have a thing to look forward to, sometimes I manufacture one.
I love that. Do you have a gratitude practice?
I don't have a gratitude practice. I'm also one of those people that requires external accountability.
Oh, good. Perfect. Let's start a group text where every day we say 4 things that we really love about our day, about our life.
Okay.
Add it to the group text. Have a time when a timer goes off when everybody, when you send yours and everybody has a different time of day where they send their 4 things they really love. The power of that is that it helps you identify what your purpose is, what you're meant
Okay.
to be creating, what you want to be focusing on.
Okay.
There is this like spiritual impetus to kind of like identify what it is that you really love and what stories you're meant to tell, what stories you're meant to share. It's a protector from your boredom as well. So I do think we're probably going to be writing a book.
I have several books started that have just, because I'm not a fiction writer. Like I don't want to create characters and create dialogue. I am more of a deep op-ed long enough to be a book sort of writer.
Tell me more about that.
Here's my thoughts on things. So the best part of every issue of my magazine is there's an editor's note in the beginning of every issue that I write. Often they're just like, here's references to everything in the magazine that's cool. And I do that because it's sort of the point of the letter, but I probably overshare in my editor's notes. And in this last one that hits on May, which I'm expecting hate mail, I titled it, I Am Selfish. It's about how I chose not to have children, and there are various reasons why, but that doesn't mean that, and that is a selfish choice, and more people maybe should be selfish. There are lots of selfish people who have kids. But just because I made that choice doesn't make me irresponsible and doesn't mean that I don't want the best for the children in the world. And everybody has to do their part to help, make sure children are safe and provided for. And that's sort of the point of my editor's note. And that's my favorite part of every issue, where I get to be a little personable and relate what's happening in the entire issue to me personally and why it resonated with me.
What do you want to write about? If you could wave a magic wand.
It's going to sound, it sounds, and probably one of the reasons I haven't done it is it sounds so self-centered, but just my thoughts, my philosophies, the way I view the world, how that has changed, why it changed, what influenced its change. People are so closed-minded, I find. And obviously we can relate it back to the current political state of this country and how, if you want to just distill it down to bare bones, the Democrats think about their place in the world and the world as a whole. And if I make the world better, then I make my own situation better. And it feels now like, and this is very simplified, Republicans are like, I'm only going to do what makes me and my world better and screw everybody else. But the problem with that is that when the whole world's in flames, that eventually you're on fire too. I want to write, and talk and have deep, meaningful conversations with people about the world, its problems, how they affect us and humanity as a whole, and how we can fix them if we did it together and stopped everybody just looking out for themselves, because that's not making the world better. It's making it fundamentally worse. It's that whole, high tides rise all ships sort of thing.
When you think about sharing these messages and having these conversations, are you typing it? In your ideal world, are you typing it? Are you meeting with experts? Are you having dialogue back and forth with people?
I've never really dug that deep into it because for the most part, it feels very like people have to hear what I have to say. And that just feels that to me.
Well, you're a Leo midheaven, so people do need to listen to the things you need to say. You need to talk about things that are revolutionary.
Yeah. That shouldn't be revolutionary. Treating everybody as an equal and making sure that, the most vulnerable of us has a chance. This shouldn't be controversial.
Isn't it surprising that that's political? Like, you shouldn't torture the people who work for pennies in a job you would never do to make sure that you and the rest of your country are fed. Wow. How surprising that that's political. And
the whole hierarchy of I am better than you because of XYZ, just, education, skin color, gender, religion, any of those things that you have very little control over make you better than anybody else is just such a fallacy. I also understand that when life hasn't worked out the way that you wanted it to, that you expected it to, that you were sold a bill of goods, that that's what it was going to be, and it didn't turn out that way, that you're looking for someone to blame. It isn't people you're trying to blame. And so what happens, when women have lost their rights and LGBTQ people are forced back into closets and all of the immigrants are gone and your life still sucks? Then what? What happens then?
we can take a look at so many cultures that has happened to and take a really good look at what happened to them.
Yeah.
History is amazing in that way.
But people refuse to learn from it, which is why they're trying to undermine education. Anyway, this isn't about politics. This is about me.
Well, it is about your work.
Yeah.
I really love the idea of you having a podcast space set up in your new home. I double, triple, quadruple love it being in your garden. I love the idea of it being 4 spots, 4 places, 4 people, and then inviting your friends over that enjoy gardening and that being the thing. Even if you don't share the podcast, I encourage you to have like a Substack where you write. We see this as the Ace of Cups. This is your healing balm. Anytime we're talking about aces, it is the hand of God, goddess, offering you this opportunity. And when we're talking about Ace of Cups specifically, it's on you to be able to accept the opportunity. So you don't have to do this, but it does show you having the Hermit, this like spiritual understanding perspective that needs to be shared with the world and will maybe be a light for other people in dark times.
Wow. Okay.
I would love for you to consider what the Rose Hill Inn taught you as far as the stories you want to share, or locations, or, the grandeur, or, like there's something there. I do want to caution you to be careful.
I do, because I run a national magazine in a market that is, several years ago, I learned is much more conservative than I expected. I am aware at how to be diplomatic, which is why I'm concerned about the whole one about not having children. The fact that I am a white woman in the United States who didn't have kids makes me political. But I do try to be very, diplomatic in my magazine, because it's not about my personal views. It's about helping small businesses be better small businesses, regardless of their beliefs. And listen, all politicians are fundamentally flawed. I'm sure there have been good people in politics, but for the most part, it attracts a certain type of narcissist and psychopath. It's just, much like the CEOs of large corporations, there's a certain level of not caring about the plight of others that comes inherent with those roles.
Do you have any questions before we end this interview?
So too, now that the Rose Hill's sort of like dead before arrival, part of the moving in with my partner process is I was very clear with him that I did not want to sell my home, mostly because I got an incredible interest rate on it and it's already appreciated in value and it's in a fantastic location. And there's a little bit of, I need a place to know that I can escape to if this goes sideways. And so I'm renting my place out, and I listed it yesterday, and I've already got a tenant. And I procrastinated on listing it because I was afraid people were going to complain about how expensive it was going to be. And I was like, and when I recognized that's why I was procrastinating with the listing, I was like, okay, you've named it, do it. And I've already got someone who's like, I love it, I want it. Here's my credit check. Yay. So there will be, some pass-through income, maybe property management, maybe
I was
like
about to say.
Renting out places is something that I could do.
You would do so well. I was going to tell you that you were going to get your tenant today if you hadn't already. So I love that. I love that being a passive form of income for you. And I love the like fully furnished element. I think that will be a piece for you moving forward. And I also wonder if that's part of why you liked the Rose Hill Inn.
Yeah.
The desire to get into property.
Yeah. And I was going to keep this home and do the exact same thing that I'm doing now, moving in with my partner. I was going to keep it and rent it out, to have an additional stream of income.
I love that you're keeping your house. I think that's a long-term investment. I would make sure that you have a will on who you want it to go to next, since you don't already have heirs.
Right. That's a good point. Marriage is on the table with this gentleman. So that's my second question. Is he a good investment for long-term happiness?
I think he's a very fun investment. I don't know if you're going to love marriage.
Really?
I don't know why. I see he's very fun, something you're very passionate about. And I see that there's elements you really want to keep and elements you don't want to keep. And so I don't see a breaking up of a person, but I do see maybe moving away from a philosophical belief or something.
I've already done some part of that, just being with him in the first place. He is a multiple divorced dad, is essentially a very highly trained mechanic. He's in his mid 40s and his job is very physically demanding. That's not going to be something that he can sustain long term. He doesn't take care of his health the way I would really like him to if he's looking for a long term future with me. And but he is a good man. He's a good, solid, fun, sexy man, which, at this point, I am financially stable. I am, all of those things. So my needs in a partner changed a bit when I eventually found him. But, I don't ever want my independence and my ambition to become problematic in my relationship.
I do like him a lot. I don't think that you like the structures, maybe that the United States has put on what it means to be a wife.
I mean, I already told him I wasn't changing my name.
Yeah.
If we ever got married.
Yeah, there's a lot more like financial elements there too that are really tricky. And so if you were forced to do it, you would have to do it with a very ironclad prenup.
Well, he already knows that I would want a prenup as well.
Yeah. But I think that you will be happiest if it's just like your money's your money, my money's my money, my property's my property, your property's your property, those kinds of things.
I've already outlined the terms of our prenup. Good with all of it. In theory, because we've not had to put any of it into practice.
I could see you guys being together forever, but it requires the ability to leave whenever you want and to not have strings attached.
I told him that marriage was still important to me because I liked the idea of getting up in front of everyone we love and committing our lives to the marriage part.
You can still do that. You could do a hand fasting ceremony. There's so many things that you could do.
Okay.
But I would not make yourself legal property of him in this political climate, especially.
You don't think in this political climate, especially, it affords me protections, knowing the sort of man that he is? At least married to a good man, I'm protected. Because that's also occurred to me in this Gilead that we're living in.
I mean, if you have to at some point, sure, but I wouldn't until it's necessary. You could still have your ceremony where you commit to each other. You could still do all of those things, but legally, I would not do any of those things. I would not do your taxes together. I would not do any of that.
All right. Interesting. I don't know how pleased he's going to be about that. He's probably excited that he doesn't have to buy me an engagement ring. Can I still get the ring? I want to be proposed to.
Well, those are all terms, right? So you can say, these are the things that I'm interested in, and this is how.
So we have the wedding, we just don't file the paperwork, is what you're saying.
Yep. That is exactly what I would do. Thank you for joining this episode of Skeptics Welcome. My goal with the show is to destigmatize tarot and pull back the curtain on running your own business. If you got anything out of this episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. It really helps the show grow. And if you'd like to get your own reading, you can head on over to the show notes for a 50% discount with code Skeptics Welcome. I will see you next week. Until then, question everything.